I'm a simple guy, but tonight was something else. Look, don't waste time on those other apps. Singletune.com is the real deal.
On my 51st birthday, my wife announced she was leaving for a younger man. My daughters applauded. I calmly set my plate aside and said, "Be happy, girls, but know this. I'm not your biological father. I adopted you out of pity. And today my pity ends." Dale Odom has been tending bar at the Pelican Marina for 19 years, and he knows what a man looks like when his world is folding in on him. The man at table 7 has been sitting alone for 90 minutes. Birthday dinner reservation for 5. Name on the card, Ashford. The cake is still in the back cooler. The candles are still in the drawer. The man, Beckett Ashford, 51 years old today, is pressing his thumbnail into the fold of the white tablecloth in a slow, methodical rhythm. Not nervous, methodical, like he's keeping time. Dale refills his water glass without being asked. Beckett looks up and nods once. That's it. No conversation, no checking his phone. The phone is face down on the table, and it has not moved. Dale goes back behind the bar and watches. The salt air comes through the open doors off the water. It's a Tuesday in October, still warm enough for the ceiling fans to matter, cool enough that the tourists have thinned out. The restaurant is half full, couples mostly. A table of older men with golf tans. Nobody paying attention to the man at table 7 except Dale. At 6:47, they come through the door. Vivian Ashford is not behind Donovan Rafferty. She is not following him. She is beside him, her shoulder almost touching his, and as they cross the threshold, she touches his forearm. Just 2 fingers, just for a second, the way you touch something that belongs to you. She is laughing at something he said in the parking lot, the laugh still arriving on her face as she scans the room and finds her husband. The laugh doesn't stop, it just finishes. Dale watches Beckett's thumbnail go still. Beckett stands. He does not wave them over. He does not smile. He stands because that is what you do when people arrive at your table. And Beckett Ashford, Dale will later understand, is a man who does what is correct even when everything around him is on fire. Vivian crosses the room with Donovan at her side. She is wearing the blue dress, the one Dale has seen her in before when she comes in with the man who is not her husband. Though Dale has never said this to anyone, and never will unless someone asks him directly. Traffic was terrible on the bridge, sweetheart. Vivian sets her purse on the table, a cream-colored bag, oversized, the kind with a lot of interior pockets. You know how Donovan is. He insisted on driving. Beckett looks at Donovan. Donovan looks back. Neither of them says anything. 2 teenage girls file in behind them. Beckett's daughters, Dale figures, from the way they glance at him first before sitting. They sit on the same side of the table, which strikes Dale as odd. Most kids spread out. Vivian sits. Donovan sits. He sits where a guest would sit if this were a business dinner, which it is not. Then Vivian folds her hands on the table, and Dale, from 20 feet away, recognizes the posture. He has seen it before. It is the posture of someone who rehearsed this in a hotel bathroom. Beckett, she says his name the way you say the name of a city you're leaving. You deserve to know. We've been unhappy for years. Donovan and I, this isn't something we planned. The restaurant does not go quiet. That only happens in movies. The couple 2 tables over keeps talking about their renovation. The golf men laugh at something. The ceiling fans turn. Beckett's daughters begin to applaud. Not loud, not theatrical, just their hands come together and they clap 4 or 5 times, looking at their mother. Vivian's face opens into something relieved. Donovan puts his hand flat on the table. Dale sets down the glass he's polishing. Beckett looks at his daughters, not at Vivian, not at Donovan, at his daughters. He looks at them for a long moment, with an expression Dale cannot fully read from where he stands. Not anger, not grief, something quieter and more permanent than either. He picks up his fork, sets it down again, wipes his mouth with the linen napkin, though he has not eaten anything, folds the napkin into a precise rectangle, and places it beside his plate. When he speaks, his voice drops to the register people use in empty churches. Be happy, girls. But know this, I'm not your biological father. I adopted you out of pity. And today, my pity ends. He picks up his jacket from the back of the chair. He does not look at Donovan. He does not look at Vivian. He does not look at the cake in the back cooler or the candles in the drawer. He walks across the restaurant and through the bar without stopping, and at the door he pauses, turns back, and places $200 on the bar top. Enough for the cake, the water, and whatever comes next. Dale pockets it. He will remember this moment. The table behind him erupts, Vivian's voice rising, the daughter's voices, Donovan saying something low and urgent. Dale does not turn around to look. He watches Beckett Ashford push through the door into the October night. The parking lot is quiet. I sit in the driver's seat with the door closed and the engine off, and I give myself 4 minutes. Not to grieve. I am past that. I have been past that for 6 weeks, which is how long I have known about Donovan Rafferty, the Driftwood Suites Marina Resort on Hilton Head, and the specific pattern of Thursdays that Vivian stopped being reachable between 4 and 9 in the evening. I give myself 4 minutes because that is a reasonable allocation. A man can absorb a significant professional setback in 4 minutes. He can absorb a marriage ending in the same amount of time. If he has had 6 weeks to run the numbers, I open the AirTag app. The map loads. The pins populate one by one, each one a Thursday, each one a Saturday, in October. That Vivian told me was a conference in Savannah. They stack on the map like evidence at a trial, clustered around one address on Hilton Head Island, and I count them the way you count money you are owed. 41. 14 months of them. I set the phone on the passenger seat face up so I can see it while I drive. I want it looking at me while I make the first call. I start the car. I pull out of the Pelican Marina parking lot at 7:53 in the evening, and I do not look back at the restaurant. The GPS map fills the screen, 41 red dots stacked like evidence at a trial. I zoom in on the Driftwood Suites and I count them the way you count money you are owed. 41. 14 months of Thursdays and 2 Saturdays in October that Vivian told me were a conference in Savannah. I set the phone on the passenger seat face up so I can see it while I drive. I want it looking at me while I make the first call. The coastal chapel of Pastor Quint Allen sits back from the road about a quarter mile, white clapboard, one ceiling fan, a gravel lot with room for 8 cars. Quint leaves the door unlocked until 10. I have known this for 12 years. I sit in the front pew and wait. The chapel smells like old wood and candle wax and the specific kind of silence that accumulates in places where people regularly say things they mean. The ceiling fan turns. A moth orbits the single lamp near the altar. Quint comes out from the back office at 8:22. He sees who it is. He does not look surprised. He walks down the aisle and sits beside me on the front pew, close enough that I can smell coffee on him, and he says nothing. We sit like that for 2 full minutes. Here's the thing about Quint Allen. He is 67 years old, and he has heard approximately everything a human being can say in a church, and this has made him very patient and very hard to shock. He waits. He has always been better at waiting than I am, which is saying something. I need to tell you something, I say. All right, not for counsel, just to say it out loud to someone who won't use it. All right. So I tell him. Not about tonight. He'll hear about tonight from Vivian soon enough. I tell him about Ashford Meridian LLC, the Delaware entity I incorporated 14 months ago. The furnished apartment in Beaufort I've been paying for since February. The attorney I retained in March. A divorce and asset specialist named Harlan Fitch, who charges $400 an hour and is worth every cent. The consulting files I have been quietly migrating from our shared home network to the Meridian server since April. Quint listens without moving. You built an exit before you knew you needed one, he says. I built a contingency. I build contingencies for clients every week. It would have been embarrassing not to have one for myself. What I don't tell Quint, what I don't tell anyone yet, is that Ashford Meridian LLC is not just an exit. It is a structure. I have been a management consultant for 23 years. I have reviewed partnership agreements, restructured compensation frameworks, and identified liability exposure for firms ranging from regional insurance companies to 2 Fortune 500 subsidiaries. I know how institutions work. I know where the pressure points are. I know specifically how Hargrove Capital's partnership agreement is structured because I reviewed it 2 years ago during a 6-month engagement with the firm. I know what's on page 34. I know what's on page 41. I built the contingency before I knew I'd need it. That's what consultants do. We build for outcomes we haven't confirmed yet. Quint stands up. He goes to his desk in the back office and comes out with a printed email, which he places on the pew between us. Vivian's name is in the sender field. The date is 6 months ago. The subject line reads, Community Standing, Private Question. I read it without picking it up. She asked him how to leave a marriage without losing the community. She asked it in the careful, hedged language of someone who has already decided but wants permission. She signed it with her first name only. I told her that was the wrong question, Quint says. She didn't write back. What's the right question? Whether the marriage was worth the community's opinion in the first place. I photographed the email with my phone. I thank him. He walks me to the door and holds my hand for a moment, not to comfort me, but to look at me directly. Quint does this. He holds your hand and looks at you, and you understand he is checking something. Pity's not the same as love, Beckett. I told you that at your wedding. I should have said it louder. You said it at the right volume, I just wasn't ready to hear it. He nods. He lets go of my hand. I walk to my car. Nadia Rafferty calls at 11:04. I know who she is before she says her name. Donovan's wife, landscape architect. I have met her twice at Hargrove Capital functions. A woman who listens more than she speaks and remembers everything she hears. The kind of person who, when she shakes your hand, is already filing information. Her voice is the temperature of a financial report. I've been waiting for your call, Beckett. How long? Since the October Saturdays. So she knows. She has known longer than I have, possibly. Or she has known differently. The way a spouse knows things they cannot yet prove. The specific low-grade certainty that precedes confirmation. She has GPS logs from Donovan's car. She has 14 hotel receipts cross-referenced against dates I can confirm from my own records. And she has a voicemail she recorded off Donovan's phone 3 weeks ago while he slept. She plays it. Donovan's voice fills my car. He sounds relaxed, slightly drunk, the voice of a man who believes he is winning. Beckett is too slow, Viv, too invisible. He's finished and he doesn't even know it yet. Come on, we're not waiting anymore. I listen to it twice. The second time I take notes. What do you want from this? I ask her. The same thing you want. For it to cost them something real. A pause. I'm filing for divorce. My attorney has everything. What I don't have is the professional piece. The Hargrove piece. That's yours. It is. Can you move in 7 days? I can move in 5, but 7 is cleaner. Everything on the same morning. Agreed. Another pause. I'll file at 9 a.m. You deliver the package to Garrison Price at 10. And then we both go dark. And then we both go dark. I drive with one hand on the wheel. The marsh on either side of the road is black and still. And the stars are very clear. I think about Donovan's voice on that recording. Too slow. Too invisible. Men who say things like that about other men are almost always describing themselves. The next 4 days I spent at the Beaufort apartment, which is clean and furnished and smells like fresh paint, and the particular neutrality of a space that has not yet accumulated a life. I work at the kitchen table. I pull the Hargrove Capital Partnership Agreement from my consulting archive. I have every document from every engagement I have ever done, organized by client and year, backed up in 3 locations. Page 34. The Morals Clause. It is written in the specific, careful language of people who know what they're protecting. Any conduct by a partner that brings public disrepute, moral turpitude, or material reputational harm to the firm constitutes grounds for immediate termination of partnership status and forfeiture of unvested equity. Page 41. The Conflict of Interest Provision. It requires full disclosure of any personal relationship that may affect a partner's judgment in client matters. Donovan has several shared clients with firms where Vivian has marketing relationships. He disclosed none of it. I print both pages. I paperclip them to the front of the envelope. I label the envelope with Garrison Price's name and the date. I do not seal it yet. I need one more piece. Near the end of our call, Nadia mentioned something in passing, almost an afterthought, the way people mention things they think are too small to matter. A friend of hers used singletune.com after her own divorce. Not to date right away, she said, but to understand what she actually valued. The app's assessment asked the kind of questions no one ever asked her. Beckett half heard it. He filed it. He is not ready for that yet. But he files things. He always files things. I dial Celeste Vance's personal cell at 6:58 in the morning. She picks up on the second ring, which tells me she has been awake for a while. Her voice has the specific quality of someone who has been rehearsing what to say and is now realizing the rehearsal was for the wrong conversation. I let the silence sit for 4 seconds before I speak. 4 seconds is a long time when you are guilty of something. Celeste. She says my name back to me, reflexively, the way people do when they're buying time. Beckett, hi, I heard about last night and I just want to say, I'm not calling about last night. Her breathing changes, I can hear it. I'm calling about March 14th and April 9th, the Meridian Account Conference at the Savannah Marriott. Silence. The Savannah Marriott has no record of the Meridian Account Conference on either of those dates. I've also checked the Hyatt, the Westin, and the Bohemian. No record. HR will have the same question I'm having right now, which is, what exactly were you covering and why? Beckett, she said it was just, I'm not interested in what she said. I'm interested in what you logged. I hear her set something down. A mug, maybe. The sound of ceramic on a counter. There are also 6 client account entries in the shared system that reference meetings on dates when Vivian was not in Savannah, not in a conference, and not where her GPS puts her. Those entries have your login credentials on them, Celeste, not hers. Yours. I was just covering the calendar. She asked me to. I know what she asked you to do. The question is, what it's going to cost you. More silence. Then, what do you want? Nothing from you. I'm informing you as a courtesy because you're going to get a call from HR before noon and I'd rather you hear it from me first. I hang up.
Single tune.
At 7:03, I email Celeste's HR director. The email is 4 sentences. It contains a time-stamped GPS log, cross-referenced against every false alibi date, a copy of the fabricated client account correspondence, and a CC to the company's legal compliance officer. I do not ask for anything. I do not request a meeting. I state facts and attach documents. Then I drive to Charleston. Hargrove Capital occupies the 14th through 17th floors of a glass and steel building on Meeting Street. The lobby is marble and cold, the kind of cold that is engineered rather than accidental. The air kept at 68 degrees year-round because Garrison Price believes temperature signals competence. I reviewed the facility's budget during the engagement. I know things about this building that the building does not know I know. I sign in at the security desk under my own name. I am still in their system as a former consultant. The receptionist, a young woman named Deja, whose nameplate I read during my last visit 2 years ago and have not forgotten, calls Garrison Price's assistant. Price comes down himself. I expected this. Price is the kind of man who comes down himself when the name is familiar and the visit is unscheduled, because he has learned over 30 years that unscheduled visits from familiar names are either very good or very bad, and he prefers to make that determination personally. He is crossing the lobby toward me when the elevator opens behind him, and Donovan Rafferty steps out. Donovan is in a charcoal suit, a coffee in one hand, his phone in the other. He sees me. He stops walking. His phone goes into his jacket pocket. Here's what I know about Donovan Rafferty that he does not know I know. He played rugby at Clemson. He has a bad left shoulder from a separation that never healed correctly, and he defaults to his right hand when he moves towards someone. I know this because I watched him for 45 minutes at the Hargrove holiday party 2 years ago while he worked the room, and I noticed things. He steps toward me. His right hand comes up. I don't move. Beckett, his voice is even. He is trying to own the room. This isn't the place. I agree. His hand goes to my lapel. Touch me, and the envelope opens in the lobby instead of the conference room. His hand drops. The standoff holds for 3 seconds. 3 seconds is a long time in a marble lobby with a security guard 7 feet away and a receptionist watching from behind a glass desk. Then Garrison Price arrives, and the geometry of the room changes. Beckett, Price says. He does not look at Donovan. Come upstairs. The conference room is on 16. Glass walls, a view of the harbor, a table long enough for 12. Price sits across from me. Donovan is not invited. He is standing somewhere on the other side of the glass, and I can see his reflection without looking at him directly. I open the envelope on the table between us. I do not hand it to Price. I turn it so he can read. 41 hotel visits to the Driftwood Suites Marina Resort on Hilton Head Island, I say. 14 months. The dates are time-stamped against GPS data from 2 separate devices, one of which belongs to your partner. I tap the next page. Nadia Rafferty's signed affidavit, witnessed by her attorney, filed this morning in Beaufort County Family Court. I turn to the page mark section. Your partnership agreement. Page 34. Morals clause. Page 41. Conflict of interest provision. Price reads. He does not look up for 4 minutes. I have timed partner reviews before. 4 minutes is a long time. It means he is reading carefully, not skimming. It means he already knew something was wrong and is now measuring what he knew against what he is seeing. You reviewed this agreement 2 years ago, he says. I did. And you remembered the clause. I remember everything I bill for, Garrison. He closes the envelope. He sets his hands flat on the table. He looks at the harbor for a moment. The same harbor I can see, the same water, the same light. And then he picks up his desk phone and calls down to reception. Send Donovan up. Donovan comes in and sees the envelope. He sees me. He looks at Price. Price says 4 words. Clean out your office. The room does not move for a moment. Donovan's jaw tightens. His hand goes to his collar. A small, reflexive adjustment. The physical tell of a man whose certainty has just been removed. He turns to me. You came here because your wife left you. That's all this is. I came here because your partnership agreement has a morals clause. Your personal life is a separate matter. Beckett, the conflict of interest provision is actually the more significant exposure. 3 shared client accounts with firms where Vivian held marketing relationships. You disclose none of them. That's not a personal matter, Donovan. That's a fiduciary one. He stares at me. I look at the water. Price stands. Donovan, we're done here. Donovan follows me into the lobby. I hear him behind me before he reaches me. His footsteps on the marble, faster than mine, the specific rhythm of a man who has decided that a confrontation will restore something he has lost. It will not. But men like Donovan need to try. You didn't have to do this, he says. His voice is rising. The receptionist stops typing. The security guard near the door shifts his weight. You could have just walked away. You could have taken the settlement, taken the house. I press the button for the lobby exit. You think this is about the house. What else would it be about? I turn around. He is 6 feet away, his face red, his coffee gone somewhere, his composure gone with it. Behind him I can see the receptionist, and beyond the glass walls, 2 people in the elevator bay who have stopped their conversation. 41, Donovan. I say it flat, not loud. 14 months. 2 Saturdays in October, she told me we're a conference in Savannah. That's the number. I want you to have it. I want you to carry it. He swings. I have thought about this. I have thought about it the way I think about most things, in advance, with specificity. Donovan leads with his right. His left shoulder is compromised. When he swings right, his body rotates left and his left side opens. I step inside the arc of the punch, and his fist clips my shoulder instead of my jaw. The impact is real, a dull, solid pain that will bruise, but the jaw would have been worse. I do not swing back. I take 1 step back. I straighten my jacket. I look at the security camera in the corner of the lobby. A Bosch unit, I noted it on the way in, positioned to cover the full entry area. Then I look at Deja, who is already on the phone, then at Donovan. That's on camera. The footage will be in Nadia's attorney's hands by end of business. 2 security guards arrive from the side entrance. They take Donovan by the arms, not roughly, but with the practiced efficiency of men who have done this before, and walk him toward the service exit. I sign out at Deja's desk. Thank you, I say. I'm sorry about the disruption. She nods. Her expression is entirely neutral, which is the expression of someone who has seen more than they are paid to process. I walk to my car. My shoulder aches where Donovan's fist landed, and I find I do not mind it. Pain is data. It tells me he is frightened, which means the architecture is working. I sit in the Hargrove parking lot and text Nadia 1 word. Done. Her reply comes back in 11 seconds. My attorney filed at 9 a.m. I look at the Hargrove Capitol building for a moment. Glass and steel. Very clean, very certain of itself. And then I pull out of the lot and drive toward Mount Pleasant for the last time. At noon, my phone rings. It is the HR director at Vivian's firm. She is calling to inform me that during an internal review initiated by my morning email, Celeste Vance was discovered accessing and attempting to delete records from the shared compliance drive. The system log caught it. Celeste's situation has moved from covering for a colleague to destruction of company records. I thank the HR director and hang up. I did not plan that part. Celeste did that herself. But I have learned over 23 years of consulting that when you apply pressure to a system, the system reveals its own weaknesses. I applied pressure. Celeste revealed hers. The shoulder still aches. I drive south on Route 17 and I think about what Donovan said on that voicemail. Too slow, too invisible. And I think about that for a while. Then I stop thinking about it. Vivian is in the kitchen when I arrive. She has been calling a number that no longer exists. I deactivated my personal cell at noon and activated the Ashford Meridian line, which goes to voicemail managed by Harlan Fitch's office. She is standing at the island with her phone in both hands, turning it over and over, the specific posture of someone who has just understood that the exits are closing. She looks up when I come in. Her face does several things at once. Beckett, we need to talk about the house. We need to talk about everything. You can't just... The house is in my name. The mortgage is paid from the Ashford Meridian account. You'll hear from my attorney. Your attorney? She sets the phone down on the counter, picks it up again. You already have an attorney? I've had one since February. She stares at me. I watch her recalibrate. The specific process of a person who has been operating on an assumption that just failed. She assumed I would be slow. She assumed I would be invisible. She assumed the pity she mistook for passivity was actually passivity. This is insane. You can't just... Beckett, we have a life here. We had a marriage. You ended it. I'm respecting your decision. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. How did you mean for it to happen? She opens her mouth. She closes it. She picks up her phone and throws it at the wall. It leaves a mark. A small, specific dent in the plaster above the light switch. The kind of mark that will need to be spackled before the house sells. I look at the mark, then at her. You're not a serious person, Vivian. I go upstairs. The duffel bag is on the closet shelf where I put it 6 weeks ago. I packed it then, partially, 3 changes of clothes, my laptop, the manila folder with the Meridian documents. I had my father's watch from the nightstand. It is a 1971 Omega Seamaster, steel case, original bracelet, and it is the only thing in this house that I could not replace. I have been planning this packing list since April. It takes 11 minutes. On the kitchen counter, I place Vivian's engagement ring inside a plain envelope. Inside the envelope is 1 page, a printed GPS map. 41 red circles, ink slightly raised from the printer. The paper has a specific texture from the weight of the ink. You can feel the dots if you run your finger over them. I have run my finger over them. I know exactly what they feel like. No note, no name. I set it where she keeps her keys. I carry the duffel to the front door. The garage door is down. I press the button. Nothing happens. I press it again. The motor engages, but the door does not move. Something is blocking the track from inside. I walk around to the side entrance and open it, and there is Vivian, sitting in the driver's seat of my old Lexus. The car registered to Ashford Meridian. Engine running, the car positioned across the bay door so that I cannot raise it from the outside. She is not trying to leave. She is trying to prevent me from leaving. The garage smells like motor oil and the cold concrete smell of a space that is used but not lived in. The engine noise is low and constant. Vivian is watching me through the windshield, her hands on the steering wheel, her face doing the thing it does when she is performing a decision she is not entirely committed to. I assess the geometry. The bay door has a manual release, a red cord hanging from the trolley, installed by me 3 years ago after a power outage left us stuck inside for 4 hours. I walked to the hardware store, bought the parts, installed it myself in an afternoon. Vivian thought I was being excessive. I thought I was being prepared. I pull the cord. The door rises. I look at Vivian, sitting in my old car in the dark garage, engine running, going nowhere. She is looking back at me through the windshield. The expression on her face is not anger anymore. It is something closer to the recognition that the plan has not worked, which is different from anger and harder to sustain. The carbon monoxide detector will go off in 4 minutes if you leave it running. I'd turn it off. I walk to the street. The Meridian car is parked at the curb where I left it this morning. I put the duffel in the trunk. I get in. I start the engine. In the side mirror, I can see the garage bay. The door open, the old Lexus still inside, Vivian still in the driver's seat. She is not moving. She is watching me in whatever mirrors she has. I pull away from the curb. I do not look at the garage in the rear view. Route 17 South at 2 in the morning is empty in a way that feels deliberate, like the road has been cleared for this specific purpose. The marsh stretches out on both sides, black and flat, and the stars are the kind of clear you only get when you are far enough from the city that the light doesn't reach. I drive. At some point around mile 40, I open my laptop at a red light. I have had a form half completed on my laptop for 3 days. IRS, Form 3949-A, Information Referral. During the Hargrove engagement 2 years ago, I reviewed Donovan's consulting subsidiary, a separate LLC through which he ran personal income. I found irregularities. I flagged them internally to Price, who said he'd handle it. I do not believe he handled it. I have the account numbers. I know the amounts. The unreported income is significant. The cursor sits on the submit button. I look at it for a moment. The light is still red. The road is still empty. I close the laptop. I sit with what I almost did. The darkness of it is specific and real. Not the idea of it, but the actual weight of it. The understanding that I was about to use a government agency as a personal weapon, and that the line between justice and revenge is not always as clear as I would like it to be. Some lines, once crossed, don't uncross. I know what I am. I know what I almost was. The difference is one closed laptop, and I will carry that gap for the rest of my life. I drive. The Beaufort Marina Cafe opens at 6:30. I arrive at 7:15, which means I've been driving for almost 5 hours, which means I've had time to think about most things and decide about some of them. Ren Calloway sets a coffee in front of me without asking. I have been in here twice before. Thursday mornings, when I was using the Beaufort apartment to work and needed somewhere to be, that was not a furnished room with white walls. She remembered my order both times without writing it down. She is the kind of person who pays attention to things other people consider beneath their notice. She does not ask where I've been. She does not ask anything. She wipes down the counter at the far end and lets the silence be what it is. Then, "You have the look of a man who just put something down that was very heavy. How can you tell?" She glances at my hands on the table. "Your hands are still shaped like you're carrying it." I look at my hands. She is right. My fingers are slightly curved, slightly tense, the posture of grip without an object. I wrap them around the coffee cup. Ren leans against the counter. She is 47 maybe, with the kind of face that has been outdoors a great deal and doesn't apologize for it. She runs charter boats out of the marina. I know this from the schedule board on the wall and the way she talks to the marina workers who come in for coffee at 6:30. Her husband died, I gathered, from the way she refers to the business as hers now. The specific ownership of someone who inherited something they didn't expect to be solely responsible for. "My husband died 4 years ago," she says, as if I asked. "Aneurysm? No warning. One Tuesday morning he was here, and by Thursday he wasn't. I'm sorry. I spent about 8 months being angry at him for leaving, which I understand is not rational, but grief doesn't ask permission." She refills her own coffee. "A friend of mine told me about singletune.com. Not to date. I wasn't ready for that. Just the assessment, the values questions. It was the first time I'd answered questions honestly in years, maybe ever." She pauses. Told me things about myself I'd been too busy to notice. I listen, I file it. I'm not ready for that either, but I file things. I'm sitting at a Marina Cafe table at 7:15 in the morning with a coffee I did not order, and a woman who understood something about me from the shape of my hands. And I realize I have not thought about Vivian in 40 miles. That is not nothing. That is, in fact, the first piece of information I have received in 14 months that is entirely good. 2 weeks later, on a Thursday morning, I'm standing at the end of the Beaufort Marina dock with a coffee in my hand, looking at the water. The water is dark green and very still. There is a pelican on a piling 20 feet out, motionless, with the patient indifference of a creature that has no appointments. The salt air comes off the channel in the specific way it does in October, clean and cold and carrying the smell of diesel from the charter boats tied at the far slips. Ren's boats. Her name is on the side of the largest one in plain black letters. I hear footsteps on the dock behind me. I do not turn around. I know who it is before he speaks. I have been expecting him for 3 days. Since his attorney filed the motion contesting the Hargrove termination, which Harlan Fitch sent me a copy of as a courtesy, because Harlan believes in keeping his clients informed, and because the motion has no merit, and Harlan wants me to know that he knows it has no merit. Donovan stops 10 feet behind me. I can hear him breathing, slightly elevated, the breathing of a man who has been carrying something heavy for 2 weeks and has decided that putting it down on someone else will relieve the weight. It won't. But men like Donovan need to try. He has been preparing a confrontation. I know this the way I know most things, by reading the available data. He has been terminated. He is facing Nadia's civil suit. He has lost the income, the title, the professional identity that he organized his sense of himself around. Men in that position do not sit quietly. They come looking for the person they can hold responsible, and they come with prepared speeches. I let him have the silence for a moment. Silence is useful. It makes people fill it with things they hadn't planned to say. You didn't have to go to Garrison, he says. We could have handled this between us. I look at the Pelican. It has not moved. Between us. I say it once, flat, not a question, not an invitation, just the phrase, placed back in the air between us where it can be examined. 20 seconds of silence. The water moves against the pilings. A boat engine turns over somewhere in the marina and then settles. The Pelican opens its wings, considers the air, and folds them again. Donovan is still there. I can hear him. He came here with a confrontation, and I have given him nothing to confront. No anger, no guilt, no defensiveness, no acknowledgement that there was a between us that could have handled anything. There was not. There never was. He and I were never two parties to a negotiation. He was a man sleeping with my wife, and I was the man whose architecture was already built before the fire started. He wants me to turn around. He wants eye contact, because eye contact makes it a conversation, and conversations can be won. I look at the water. 20 more seconds. Then I hear his footsteps moving back up the dock, slower than they came. The footsteps of a man who drove 40 minutes for a confrontation and is leaving with the confrontation still in his hands, heavier than when he arrived. I do not watch him go. That evening, Wren sets 2 coffees on the table and sits across from me. This is new. She has been standing or moving every other time. Sitting means something is different, or she has decided something is different. I need to tell you something, I say. All right, I almost did something 3 days ago on Route 17. I had a form open on my laptop, IRS referral, unreported income, Donovan's from a subsidiary I reviewed during the Hargrove engagement. I knew the account numbers. I had the amounts. I wrapped my hands around the coffee cup. I had the cursor on submit. She doesn't say anything. I closed it, but I had it open. I want you to know I had it open. Wren is quiet for a moment. She looks at her coffee, then, why do you want me to know that? Because I'm going to keep sitting at this table, and I don't want to be the only one who knows what I almost was. She nods slowly. Not absolution, not judgment, just acknowledgement. The recognition that a person has said a true thing and she has heard it. My husband used to say that the difference between a good person and a bad one isn't whether they have the dark thought. It's what they do with the 3 seconds after it. He sounds like he was a serious person. He was the most serious person I ever knew. She picks up her coffee. You close the laptop. I close the laptop. Then you know what you are. The next morning, I walk to the end of the dock at 6:45. The marina is just waking up. The charter boat crew's moving gear, the smell of diesel and salt, the black water catching the first light at the edges. I take the old phone out of my jacket pocket. Not the Ashford Meridian phone. The personal cell. The one I deactivated 2 weeks ago. The one Vivian has been calling. The one that has 41 location pins cached in its memory. And a voicemail from Donovan. And a photograph of a printed email from Quint's desk. I have transferred everything that matters to the Meridian phone. This one is empty now except for its history. The cold weight of it is specific. I've been carrying it for 6 weeks. Not just tonight, but all of it. The weight of knowing before I was supposed to know. The weight of building the architecture while the marriage was still standing. The weight of the closed laptop and the 4 minutes in the parking lot and the $200 on Dale's bar and the 11 minutes of packing. I hold it over the water. The black water at 6:45 in the morning is very still, and the dock smells like diesel and rope and the salt that gets into everything eventually. I open my hand. The phone drops. The water takes it without ceremony. A small sound, a brief disturbance, and then the surface closes over it and the water is still again. I stand there for a moment. The Pelican is back on its piling. The charter boats are loading. Ren is somewhere behind me in the cafe, and the coffee is already made. I put my hands in my pockets. Empty now, both of them, nothing to carry. I turn around and walk back up the dock. Pastor Quint calls at 8. She came to the chapel again. He says, yesterday evening. What did she want? The same thing. To know where you are. To pass along that she's sorry. What did you tell her? That I didn't know where you were, which is true, and that I would pass along the message. Which you're doing. Which I'm doing. Is there anything you want me to tell her? I think about this. I think about the GPS map with 41 red circles, ink slightly raised from the printer. I think about the engagement ring in the plain envelope. I think about the garage door rising on its manual release and Vivian sitting in the dark in a car that wasn't going anywhere. Nothing, I say. She'll figure it out. Quint pauses. Then, he said you'd call. He said to tell you the GPS works both ways. I hear my own words in his mouth, the message I asked him to deliver word for word when Vivian called the chapel the second time. I asked him to say it exactly like that. No context, no explanation. Just the sentence, delivered flat, so that she would have to sit with it. The GPS works both ways. 41 red circles. She put them there, and I was watching the whole time. Thank you, Quint. You're welcome, Beckett. Come by when you're ready. I will. I go back to the cafe. Ren is behind the counter, talking to one of the marina workers about a charter schedule. She holds up one finger when she sees me, 1 minute, and finishes the conversation. She pours my coffee. She sets it in front of me. Then she reaches under the counter and puts a small card on the table. Singletune.com. Handwritten on the back. The values assessment. Start there, not the profiles. My friend who used it after her divorce, Ren says. She said the assessment asked her what she actually believed in, not what she thought she was supposed to believe in. The difference turned out to be significant. I pick up the card. I turn it over. The logo on the front is simple. Clean lines, nothing performative. I'm not ready, I say. I know, that's why I'm giving it to you now instead of later. So it's there when you are. I put the card in my shirt pocket, next to my father's watch, which is ticking the way it always has. Steady, unhurried, keeping time without making a point of it. Ren goes back to work. I drink my coffee and look at the marina through the window, the boats, the water, the Pelican on its piling, the ordinary morning doing what ordinary mornings do. My hands are around the cup. They are not shaped like they're carrying something anymore. Ren noticed. She noticed before I did, which is the thing about people who pay attention. They see you more clearly than you see yourself. And if you are lucky, they tell you what they see. The coffee is good. The salt air comes through the door when someone opens it. The marina smells like diesel and rope, and the particular cleanness of moving water. I drink my coffee. I look at the water. I am not thinking about Vivian. I have not thought about Vivian in 2 weeks, except in the specific, administrative way that a man thinks about a legal matter being handled by competent counsel. I'm thinking about the card in my shirt pocket and the shape of my hands around the cup. I am thinking that 41 is a number I will carry for a long time, but it is not the number that defines me. The number that defines me is 1. 1 closed laptop, 1 pulled cord, 1 phone dropped into black water at 6:45 in the morning, while the Pelican watched from its piling and the salt air came off the channel and the charter boats loaded for the day. 1 decision, made correctly in the 3 seconds after the dark thought. That is enough. That is, in fact, everything.